that title, but it means that if you have a lot of content, make sure that the most important content turns out in the beginning of the page. Otherwise, the user won't see it when entering a view. Try to use flexible layouts that scale instead of absolute layouts. Of course, as I said, absolute layouts are fine as well, if you have the time to change them. So the color scheme can optimize battery and prevent burn-in. Landscape-only views on the Z10 needs to work in a square mode. Embrace and align with the global shortcuts. Leverage the keyboard to provide direct action. The type and go example. Don't force a switch between input modalities. And by input modalities, I mean if you start a flow with the keyboard, that is a little bit more advanced. It's good to actually keep supporting the keyboard to do something. So an example of that is having a soft focus of when doing a search, for example. So you can hit enter to select the first hit, for example, instead of having to switch between typing and then touching. And that's it from me. And I'm heading over to Daniel to show you some actual code.
Is it on? Hi, everyone. So I might have to do this sitting down. Bear with me. I have to press buttons and switch between screens and play the piano here. So I'll try to do this as smoothly as possible. Where are you on your slides? Okay, so this is a list of suggestions that Roger gave me in terms of what I should show in my app. Next one. All right. The way I want to present this to you, some of these suggestions, is by taking an existing app that was locked to portrait mode. And in this case, it's the weather history app. It's a sort of boilerplate application that I developed with another BlackBerry developer to develop all sorts of content for presentations. What I want to do is I want to switch on the landscape mode on it and try it out, and then fix anything that is wrong and adapt. And then I want to turn on the support or just load it up on the Q10 device and again see what's going on and adapt. I know the presentation is focused a lot on the Q10 device, but I think when you're designing flexible layouts, you want to try, well, you might as well do the landscape for the Z10 device because you're working with layouts and stuff, and it's easy. And I want to emphasize that this is not an exhaustive look at what's available, all the tools. It's just more to take you around the thought process of converting it and making sure that it works. And then the tools, you can look in the framework and everything it does for you. That's well documented on the Cascade site. So I hope that I'll show you how to do that. So here's the plan. For orientation and aspect ratio, let's just turn on landscape support, like I said, and load it up and see what's going on. For the Q10, same thing. Then we'll tackle shortcuts because now we have a keyboard device, a physical keyboard. People are going to press keys. That's a given. And and I think the older devices also had shortcuts that a lot of users will be used to. So we want to see how to add support for that. And then we'll take a quick look at the OLED and the color scheme. So let's start with orientation. Just in case you didn't know how to turn it on, in your code, I'll show you this in a second, you go to the bar descriptor XML file, you just load it up, and then there's a field that is orientation, and you set it to auto orient. And then you just make a build, and you load it up, and it should work. And let me show you the app now. That takes a few seconds. So this is our weather history app in Portrait. So what it does is just grabs data from the server and displays it on the screen. This is the home page. It shows me the weather for London. That's not real data, by the way. You can browse for cities in other continents. You have favorites, you have settings, screen somewhere, you have info, you have settings. So I just turned on the landscape mode, and it was locked to portrait before, so now let's see what happens. Oops, that's no good. We're missing a big chunk of screen right here. Let's take a look around. This looks fine. This is fine again. We drill down to the same view, which is the weather view, and that's still missing. Min max, that looks okay. It's not too bad. The info screen, well, the cloud here is pretty close to the text. We might be able to do something about that. And I think I have something here. This is my problematic city, because I'm on my server. I'm not handling the wave accent on the A. So yeah, the cloud is over the text in this case, and the settings look okay. That's not too bad. Yeah, switch back to the PC. Okay. So, problem screen, please. So we just, I put the screen caps there just in case the HDMI didn't work. Okay, so the orientation problems that we see here, obviously the list items don't fill the landscape width completely. The list items, I didn't mention this, but they're very tall. Can you go back a few screens? See, they're very tall. Like one item takes almost all the screen. It just makes no sense. Again, the info screen and the error screen, well, the cloud wasn't positioned. So those are a few things that we can adjust pretty quickly. So why is the reason the cloud image, the list item takes the whole screen? That's because we were using a static asset for those items. It wasn't resizable, and it was already pre-composed. That's the item right there. So I can't resize that dynamically, and that causes the problem. And for the width, same problem. It's because it's static, and I'm not composing them. I don't have a background that's repeatable or anything. So that's the first problem. And for the info screen and error screen, again, it's just some padding and positioning that we'll adjust. So, solutions. Width. Let's start with the width. Okay, I need to show you some code. Thank you. Yeah, it's here. So, okay, let's see landscape support for the weather item. So the weather item QML file is the control that we're putting for each list item. So what I did here to make it fit the whole width is actually I created a bunch of filler items that I'm going to fill in that black space. Okay. Of course, like I said before, we could have a repeatable background and compose like the whole thing, the whole item programmatically. I didn't have access to a designer at the time, so I just made my own filler item, and it's as good as any method, right? It works. So what I did to the weather item code is I added a new image, and I made it load that item. and I just made it, it's in a dock layout, and I made it align to the left, and the original image that was there, I pushed it to the right. And this is the container for the text that you see there. So I've pushed that to the left. And I'm going to check this out now and show you that we fixed it. Just load it up. Okay. Switch back to this thing. Hopefully that's going to work. Yay. There you go. So what's happening is that on the left, it's my filler item. On the right, you have the original image that was there. And we aligned the text on the left and the other image on the right. And there we go. That's one problem solved. The second thing that we mentioned was the height, right? Those items are way too big. What we'll do in this case is, I actually already have assets for smaller items, okay? And those came from the original application, which was the weather guesser. And the weather guesser showed you, with the large item, it showed you the current date and for future dates with the small icons, so images, sorry. So what I did to make those items look, well, fit better in the screen is I went on and grabbed use small weather icons. So this is how we did it. I had to create filler images for the small asset. They look the same size, but trust me, they're a lot shorter. And what I did here in the weather item code, I added an orientation handler. So an orientation handler has a method signal, which is on orientation about to change. And in this case, what I do is I set a variable to, I have a property in